Hello and welcome to How to Be a Movie Snob. Folks, we are no longer trying to become snobs. We're just going with the general public today. No snobbery needed for this episode. There's your warning. We are in
that was Seth's hot take.
This is probably the most general public of general public movies we've ever done. Princess Bride is probably right on that line as well. This movie is going to be the doozies of doozies, and we're going to get into all sorts of weirdness. But first of all, I'm Seth, and I'm joined with
Mariah,
and from afar, R2 Pat Do.
A galaxy far, far away.
Yes,
Pat in his trash can.
That's right.
Pat.
You know, this is actually a good representation of Pat and me. We both have the same trash can.
The same character as a trash can.
Mine is literally a cheap trash can that's been painted.
Can I tell you that I'm not jealous
Painted
at
really
all?
well.
And then I'm very happy.
cans.
This was a labor of love by a friend, of course, and I appreciate that. But Pat's is like could be in the movie. His trash can could be
purchased
be part of the movie, and you wouldn't know. Probably that's the difference.
Well, I think it's
an R2 unit in the back of a junk room.
Sure.
You'd be like, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But mine would maybe sell at a Comic-Con, maybe.
Could have a booth.
Guys, we can't hold the secret for this one very much at all if you are watching us online, because everything you see is some sort of representation of this movie. This movie is part of our top 10 series. Last week we did
Casablanca.
Yeah.
No.
Was it Nosferatu?
Did we do Casablanca?
Was it Nosferatu? No, Casablanca. That's what it was.
It was not Nosferatu.
Not Nosferatu, which was my top 10 movie of all time, of course, because it should be everybody's, because it's Casablanca. And I hear you. You're like, no, I already seen this movie, and it was called
The Maltese Falcon.
The Maltese Falcon, but this is better, okay? It's just better. Today, we're going to Miss Mariah's list, top 10 of all time. And it's a little surprising that it's on Mariah's and not Pat's. I'm not going to lie. It's kind of like Gosford Park, which we did 2 weeks ago, was on Pat's list, not Mariah's list.
We could swap.
It's a very confusing time right now.
I think it sort of is on my list, but I had like a vague 10 as opposed to a concrete 10.
There we go.
It was in there. It's on a list I have.
Yeah, that's true. And it's probably, it's so influential and permeates almost everything in our culture.
It sure kicked off a few things.
Whether we like it or not. Mariah.
Yeah.
What is this space opera indie flick that you chose for your top 10?
This low-budget sci-fi film.
Hey, first one is not too bad, actually.
1977.
Yes.
Star Wars, Episode 4.
Star Wars, nothing but Star Wars. Nothing but Star Wars. Thank you, Bill Murray.
It's bring your trash can to podcast day.
Yeah. I don't normally.
I forgot my trash can.
Mariah, you got the memo. Did you throw it away in your email trash?
It just
She had the red one and it blew up.
It blew up on the way there.
Smoking.
That was definitely sabotaged by R2D2. We all know it's true. He's a little trickster. We're going to start out with cold brews and hot takes. I also kind of want to do cold brews and not hot take as well, because I think there's some fun not hot takes on this as well. So Mariah, do you have yours? This is your movie. I will give you the pleasure. I know you don't like to go first, but this is your movie.
Sure.
So start us off. Oh, what are you drinking first of all?
Well, first I'm having something Seth pressured me to drink.
That's right.
Kirkland brand lager.
It's a Hell's Lager, by the way. And
made by Deschutes.
Deschutes. That's the kicker. It's still a Deschutes brewed thing.
So
it's quite good.
But sold through the Cost Company.
Yeah, that's right.
It's new to me.
Some say it's the galactic empire of, stores, but we're not going to go there. So, but Kirkland at Costco, we are up for. If you want to sponsor us, we are down. We are down. We will drink all Kirkland.
Heck yes.
We don't even care.
Yeah. All your cold brews.
Cold brews, and we'll take lots of hot takes.
And I think my hot take is, there's so many hot takes.
So many.
And there's so many just takes. But mine
Yeah.
was that Spaceballs was as well made with as solid a plot as Star Wars.
Oh, sure. For sure. That's
And that's not a diss on Star Wars
I got no hate
or
for that.
Spaceballs.
Well, definitely.
Both solid movies.
I see your Schwartz is as big as mine. Yes.
Just one happened to be on my top 10.
And it was probably close.
It wasn't far off.
Oh, it's so good. Pat from afar, do you want to go next, sir?
I would love to go next. I am drinking, typically, a Bodhisattva.
Ooh, Mariah, it's actually
From
got a little-
Georgetown.
her number 2 is
That's my
number
number
your
2,
mirror.
Pat.
Yeah.
Hey, all right. My hot take, because I think generally my takes are well-established takes, but my version of a hot take is this is the greatest B movie ever made.
Nice. That's great.
It's a good one.
That's good. That's pretty good.
I think the cast would probably agree with you.
Especially Mr.
They're all thinking it.
Especially Mr. Obi-Wan himself, which made him the most money. I can't wait for you guys to talk about that one. So crazy. My hot take, which is not a hot take among Star Wars nerds, because George Lucas was so constrained, is why this one's so good. Because he has the most, the less George Lucas is involved, except for Disney, that's different. We can have that argument later. But the less George Lucas is involved in the early days, the better. And that's why this movie is still so watchable, because it has what's called, which George Lucas doesn't understand this part, a human element. But you see, the robots have the correct amount of dirt, so they really look good. So that's my hot take, but probably not a hot take if you know anything about George Lucas and his creative freedom and how it can get him into a little bit of trouble.
Yeah. Also, I mean, he had so many constraints. He didn't direct for like 20 years.
Yes, exactly right. So good. Oh, I forgot to tell you my brew. Guys, this is December, and I do a Advent beer calendar. So today, we're going to find out what my beer is today.
That's exciting.
I exchanged beers with a couple buddies of mine. Shout out to Jeff and Jared. And we exchanged beers, and it's a mystery beer. So this is the mystery beer for today. Let's find out what it is, guys. It's got a little H on the top. Ooh, it looks German.
Like we need an Empire drum roll or something.
Hopper Bra. Hopper Bra. It's a Weiss beer, so this would be like a Hefeweizen. And it's very German from Hoppenbrau. I can't read that because I don't have enough light in the room right now. But there we go. It's a Wessel beer. So thanks, guys. That's the beer for today.
I want to see that
Yeah.
one.
If we want
It
to
looks
make
like a
some
wine
leaps,
label.
Oh, it's very fancy. Very
It's
fancy.
real pretty.
But the other one I chose.
the Empire.
I chose.
Oh yeah, go on.
I chose Sinister Black as the beer for today. It just seemed appropriate.
I mean, yeah, both of those are kind of appropriate.
Yeah.
Sinister Black for Darth, and then if we want to connect some dots between the
Not-
fascist influence of the Empire
Nazis.
and
yeah.
where
pretty good.
some notable fascists came from,
That's pretty good.
we're right there.
What?
You ready for my not hot take? This was
Yeah.
really boring until about a third through. I fell asleep watching this in the afternoon because it's so slow, and then it's so good. So my not hot take is this movie is kind of boring until it's really not boring. That was my not hot take. I couldn't believe how boring it was.
Well,
It
I
is-
think if you
it's-
suspend your knowledge going into watching it for the 1,000th time, that you do need the story set up a little bit. So there's some things,
I'm going to push
in
back
the
a little bit.
first 2/3.
Because I watched it with not only Kendall, but then Dottie, and they were bored out of their minds.
Oh yeah, Finn too.
Because Kendall hadn't seen it in 20 years, and
She still didn't care to know
we
more.
We were both like, I'm kind of tired. Are you guys? And so we're like, nah.
Anybody else need a nap?
And then I turned it. So then I went back to do some work, and I watched the rest of it. And I'm like, oh, this is great. I forgot. This is amazing. But that first third, man. I mean,
it is.
Wow.
Till you get to Han, you know, you're kind of like,
Yeah.
okay. You're setting it up. Okay.
Not hot take number 2. Hans is the savior of this movie. Without Harrison Ford, this is not a good movie. That's I mean, not a good movie. It's just not great. It's not a great movie without Harrison Ford.
Well, yeah, you haven't really introduced good actors into the movie quite yet. I mean,
I disagree in a way.
At least
like,
not on Tatooine.
No, well, they're great.
Yeah.
They're just not into it.
I mean,
maybe
Peter Cushing, he's doing it. He's doing
Peter
his
Cushing's
job.
killing it.
Yeah, that's why I said on Tatooine where we're setting things up. It's like,
No. Owen and Baru are like wallpaper.
Oh, I love it.
people,
Owen's
like,
so funny though.
they're so vanilla.
No, but Owen's like the abusive uncle. It's so great.
He seems like the Walton to me.
Yeah, he really does.
Like,
Okay, so
good night, Uncle Owen. Good
folks,
night, Aunt Rose.
for those of you under 45, The Waltons is a TV show that.
Oh, sorry about that.
good night, John Boy.
Yeah.
It's so good.
I found myself. So I tried watching this one because honestly, it's been a little while since I watched the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Probably since I showed to kids 5-6 years ago, whenever it was. And so I tried to watch it from this perspective of like, craft and all that stuff. Where maybe the story and the acting lagged a little early on, the production design and the sound design like blew me away.
Agreed.
Just hearing R2 and the Jawas talk, like every sound in this universe is amazing.
We got to talk about this first, though. Which version did y'all watch?
Until they messed it up with adding the other stuff.
Because other than the news, I agree with you 1,000% until those stupid like CGI stuff.
Any special edition stuff was tough to watch. I watched what was on Disney Plus, which is the
embarrassing.
It's not quite the first special edition, because they did edit
Blu-ray.
like the Greedo stuff a little bit, but it's basically that one.
Yeah, I found that the sand guys I didn't mind, but man, when Han starts talking to Jabba.
Oh, that whole scene.
Walks over his tail.
It was the worst.
I literally fast forwarded it. I literally fast forwarded through it. I couldn't take it. I'm like, I can't watch this.
I just wonder who was satisfied with that and was like, yep, we're going to put that in. That's good.
Well,
that's polished.
George. This is the problem.
This is the problem.
This is the George element.
George will not give the Library of Congress the original version. He's the only person in the history of American film to not let the Library of Congress have the original 1977 New Hope. He's the only one who's ever done that.
Didn't they already kind of have that because it was one of the first to be submitted for preservation?
He wouldn't give him the original version.
And that was in the 80s.
He wouldn't give him the original version. He edited it since then for the VHS. So the VHS is not the original theatrical release. So the joke is,
but it didn't have the special edition.
But it's better than what's
for
on
sure.
Disney Plus.
But there's like, so I think the Disney Plus is like version 4 or 5 of him re-editing the original one. So it's like episode 4 Mark 3. We watched episode 4 Mark 4, I think. And episode 4 Mark 1 is lost to history. Maybe he burned him. I don't know.
Yeah. What's so interesting, and I think when the special editions first came out, I had like the cool VHS box set of those.
Do you still have them?
No.
Oh,
Seth, don't bring this up on the podcast.
Shame.
Don't bring this up on the podcast.
Regrets.
Some people got rid of old formats because they thought it was a good idea in the 2000s.
Cut that. I also had the original Batman and Ninja Turtles.
I have the original Batman.
I'm surprised that original Batman worked because we watched that so many times.
Oh, that's a good movie.
That
might make
what I miss.
10. I might kick out Tree of Life.
What I miss from those is the is the commercials ahead of those movies.
Yes.
I think there's a Alfred Diet Coke ad, I think, in front of Batman, and it's like great. And then a Pizza Hut in front of Ninja Turtles.
It's so good.
Anyway.
It feels like it's part of the movie, to be honest. I literally think about that every time I watch the movie.
Complimentary.
Before the podcast, Seth said, keep us on target. And I
know.
Here we go.
I was like, I'm going to go so far on this movie. You guys need to keep me on track. Because Star Wars...
Like, why are they talking about VHS commercials?
If the sheriff is going off on a tangent.
Pit that is Star Wars. And we're going to try so hard, folks, to stay on this movie. First of all, we don't care if we spoil this movie. Because if you haven't seen this movie... How?
You're never going to.
Even if you haven't, you know everything.
If you haven't seen it, you're not watching or listening to this podcast right now.
You know who hasn't seen this movie? I think my dad has never seen this movie.
Albert Einstein.
I think my dad never... No, Albert Einstein was writing it with George. Obviously, he thought about that.
Well, he probably has. He just doesn't
He was like,
remember.
Han shoots first, of course.
I think he was dead, you guys.
He was very dead by then, but George is old.
Your dad hasn't seen it.
I don't think he saw it because we were in this. Another story when I was in Asia, folks. Here we go.
Oh boy, take a drink.
So here we are, the new version, the J.J. Abrams directed. First Disney, and we're all hopeful and joyous at that time.
Force Awakens.
The optimism, and Force Awakens was pretty good. We weren't like super sad about it.
It was a new Star Wars.
We did not know what was to come next. We were very, unfortunately, we thought good things were coming. It was just going to be an upward trajectory, but we won't get into that. But we went to this cool, like, fancy theater with, like, the little, like, you order coffee and, like, you get a blanket and, like, it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, new Star Wars out. You want to watch that? Want to watch that? My dad's like, I haven't watched any Star Wars. I don't really like it. I was like, what?
Who are
also seems very like your dad thing.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, you were countercultural. Oh, that's like it's like the Queen song. And I don't like Star Wars. It's like
which is sort of funny.
Yeah.
Because George Lucas was part of this era of directors who was very anti-studio.
Oh, for
all
sure.
These things. He just happened to make a blockbuster when he set out to make Flash Gordon.
Yeah.
Yep,
exactly right.
Through all these constraints. Anyway, getting back, the special edition bits jarring, especially when they throw them in your face, like when those Bantus, I forget what they're called. When those the big sand lizards walk in front of the screen, and you're like, annoying. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It's just not that good either, right? If they went and redid those now,
oh yeah,
it would be like, yeah, that's cool.
You'd also see them walking in the sand, not just walking and knowing their sand.
Yeah, well,
you should be seeing something happen.
Pat,
they don't touch the sand.
I have a question for you. I assume I didn't look this up, but Leia's face, did they mess with it on the Disney Plus version? It looked CGI-y.
Oh, I don't think so.
Okay, because
I don't know why they would do that.
Me either, except that
Carrie Fisher's like 18, so I don't.
I know, but it just looked weirdly, and I have filmmaker mode on, obviously on my TV. I hate the HDR stuff. I want it to look like
yeah.
But it just seemed very plasticky, and I couldn't figure out if it was just the way that was lit. But
yeah.
The rest
I
of
didn't
it was
notice
fine,
that, but
that was,
it certainly
they might have done classic
noticed.
soft lighting stuff with her.
Anyway,
But yeah, anyway, to me, this rewatch, I was blown away by production design and sound design. And I thought almost nothing else matters. As long as the story goes from point A to point B, I am so taken by this universe that, like, yeah, sign me up for whatever. It's so freaking good.
I totally agree. I totally agree, Pat. And the big thing I kept thinking about is these huge sets with the lights coming through the side of it. I'm like, this is so cool looking. This is so freaking cool looking.
Yeah, iconically Star Wars, right? You're like, that is a Star Wars look. That, and not to jump to fun facts, but this movie is going to be so full of them. Apparently, the set design initially basically had no lights. It was all like black.
It's like Alien.
So the DP was like, Yeah, so the DP was like, what if I shove lights behind all these walls and then it lights through those little cutouts and you got Star Wars. And then George was able to kind of shoot almost from any direction. You didn't have to relight everything.
Exactly right. It was
and it's
brilliant.
Like,
practical
holy cow,
lights.
it's so awesome.
We call those practicals, Mariah, because they're in the frame, you know?
That's cool.
Yeah.
So this would be a practical for us right here?
Yeah, so... I mean, that, and then, of course, John Williams' score, right?
Yes,
Which
thank
that
you.
one's hard to, like, get out of your head as, like, this thing we all recognize now. But even trying to, you're like, oh, yeah, like that. It's just every moment is like, oh,
Yeah.
yep.
It's
We
so
all know
good.
this song.
Here's a weird
Just
question.
the hits.
Here's a weird question. Well, we know George Lucas isn't a good director. Sorry, that's the other hot take. George Lucas is a terrible director. Good world builder, terrible director.
Yeah.
But is the only reason George Lucas and Steven Spielberg good because of John Williams?
Well, he certainly helped.
It doesn't hurt.
I think Jurassic Park's still good.
That's not John. That's John Williams.
Steven,
It's not.
yeah.
No, that's John Williams. That's what I'm
No,
saying.
it is.
So's
He
John-
did
That's
John
why I'm
Williams.
saying it would have still been good without the soundtrack.
Steven is good.
Yeah, he's a good director, Seth.
Yeah, you know, this is what I love about George Lucas.
This is apples and oranges.
He's like-
who happen to be good friends.
Here's another. Okay, I'm going to compare him to someone he does not deserve to be compared to. Stanley Kubrick and George Lucas
Are weirdos.
sometimes don't seem to care about the people acting. Uh,
Yeah.
Or the audience.
oh my gosh. There seems to be no notes to the actors seem to be doing whatever they want, and George Lucas like, as long as the aliens look cool, that's all that matters.
Well, no, there were two notes apparently to the point where George Lucas lost
Faster.
his voice
Yeah.
faster and
More intense.
more intense. Yeah. He just had two, the crew made him two signs because that was the only notes
That's
he used.
ever said.
amazing.
Yeah.
My favorite thing watching this is how nobody pronounces anything the same.
Oh,
There's
Leia.
I know.
Leah,
Leia,
Oh my
What is
gosh.
her name?
Alderaan,
Alderaan. It doesn't matter.
Falcon,
Oh,
Falcon.
no one cares. No one cares. It was no one. I'm pretty sure most of these actors are like, yep, no one's gonna care. This is a B movie.
Whatever
This
you
is-
think
there-
it sounds like, you should say
There
that.
was
Alec Guinness doesn't give two.
there was a scene, speaking of that, when they come out, you know, they filmed whatever scenes after they were in the trash compactor, and Mark Hamill is like, oh, I think my hair is not that kind of movie. If anyone's worried about your hair not being wet, we're doing something wrong. It's like,
Harrison Ford's chutzpah, I am the man. I am the freaking man. Every time he shows up is crazy to me because he's not big yet. Like
He has no experience.
credit. But,
He's a contractor.
but everything about him is like, I am that big of a deal. I am a big deal.
Well, I think he was just old enough that it's like, if this doesn't work, I already have a career.
it's
Just
just
what-
I mean, he was in
Confident.
American Graffiti.
He was in Georgia. Yeah, he was in
Oh,
American
he
Graffiti.
was in a pickup for 2 minutes.
I know. And first of all, was it the pickup or was it the?
No, he had a
It was a
pickup.
hot
I
rod.
don't remember.
It was a hot car. I do remember that.
It was a pickup.
By the way, this is our second George Lucas movie we've done. We did do American
Yeah.
Graffiti, and it's
Who knew he had two that we could sit through?
And
Pretty much the only ones he directed that are
yeah,
worth examination.
yes. Did he not direct Empire?
No,
Oh, that makes sense.
that's why it's so good.
It's better.
He didn't write it and he didn't direct it.
Oh, stop.
Story by. We're after this movie we enter the pretty great story by realm of George Lucas.
That's
'cause he did
wonderful.
stories
'cause he
for the other one,
he
Indiana
outlined
Jones.
everything, right?
Oh, stop it. That's
Yeah.
why they're all so good.
Yeah. George's ideas in other people's hands is pretty great.
Yeah. Also, it's not just that it's not that It's not that he thought he was good. He thought this movie was going to be a total flop, total rubbish, wasn't even there for the premiere, like left the state.
George Lucas wasn't even there for the premiere of Star Wars?
No, he and Steven Spielberg went to
That would
Hawaii and came up with
That would flop.
Oh, that's
Indiana
so
Jones.
funny.
came up with Indiana Jones
Well, might as well.
on vacation.
Might as well. That's so funny.
And what did they swapped? Steven Spielberg thought it was going to be good, so they swapped some royalties or something.
Yes. I think they gave each other 2%
Yeah.
on royalties or something. And
Like
so
for Jaws and versus.
No, for Close Encounters.
Oh,
And
versus Star Wars. So Steven came out much better in that deal.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Did you see there's in this book right here, the standard for all things behind the scenes, the making of Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
There's a note where Steven Spielberg shows R2-D2 with a fishing pole catching Jaws because it passed Jaws in numbers of box office. So that's pretty. It's a pretty fun little
Nice.
nod to each other. Oh, way to beat me, buddy. Nice job. Okay, so
Yeah, they still. I'm sorry, I'm not doing my job.
No, I'm
But I have a
bringing
little
the frickin'
real life fun fact. Yeah, but they still are so competitive.
yes.
Even though I think Spielberg was the only one who believed that Star Wars would be a hit out of all their famous director friends. But anyway,
Yeah.
When I went to USC, not for school, to try and recruit kids from USC for video games, there are right across from each other the George Lucas film wing and then the Steven Spielberg film wing just facing each other. And apparently they just kept dumping money back and forth to
That's
get a bigger, more prestigious part of the college.
Nice.
And it's like, oh boy.
That's so good. That's like when North Korea and South Korea first there was a time where we have the largest flagpole. We have the largest it was this hilarious
Did
time.
they just sit there with a Guinness Book of World
Yeah,
Records?
it was really
Like,
it was this
we're
time
gonna
where
get
they're
this
we're
one.
bigger, and then history happened in South Korea. It's one of the most developed countries on earth now. So there you go.
So I don't know, maybe this works now. I had other just takeaways again, rewatching it with fresh eyes.
Are we just gonna rip into it because we can go plot by plot, baby? This would be fun.
I think we can.
Okay.
Everyone
for it.
knows what happens. We don't need to.
They don't blow up the ship with the droids, but the scanners work for
There's
sometimes.
no life forms.
Oh, the scanners not working, and how they scan things is hilariously ridiculous. That was a fun thing. Are we ripping into this?
There's a lot of logic problems in this movie.
So many, which is again, this is a B. I think your hot take. This is a B movie that's really good. It's really. Who cares about? Like Harrison Ford said, it's not that kind of movie. It's not that kind of movie.
It's not that kind of movie. Don't worry about it. Don't
worry about
overthink it.
Yeah.
Oh, Princess Leia is a badass. This movie plays still real well in 2024. She's telling people what to do. She is taking control.
Passes the Bechdel test.
It's so good. It is so
And
No, that's not
she's
true.
not-
That's not true.
No,
Because there's no other women.
Yeah, she's the
Right.
only one. Yeah, no, it doesn't pass it.
She doesn't talk with Aunt Beru
No.
Yeah.
about something not related to men. So it
But
doesn't quite pass
and
the
she's-
Bechdel test.
And there's not. I mean, she's of course beautiful, but there's not she's not in a bikini. She's not chained up
Not
yet.
yet.
Yeah.
No,
they've
but
certainly
great.
established her as a
Oh,
badass.
and she's
Confident
shooting. She takes the gun
fighter.
from him. Luke is the whiniest little whiny bad word here the whole time, and she's like, "Just get it done. I'm sick of it. Just let's do this. Let's go in the trash. Let's go shoot. Give me the gun. Let me cover for you." She's just, it's so good. And the three of them together is like the comic gold. That's just this buddy cop.
Well, and when in this one, when they're both potential romantic,
Yes.
They're interested in her.
Mm-hmm.
That's fun. It's
so
weird in hindsight,
Yeah,
but it's
sure.
fun in this movie.
It's so fun.
Yeah. When you don't know, it's fun.
Yeah.
Huh, cousin?
like that whole scene with Han.
It's making it weird.
Luke's like, "What do you think of her?" And he's like, I try not to.
Love
and he's
that.
like, good. Like that whole
Love
banter,
that
you're like,
scene.
yeah, that's fun.
Oh, yeah.
That's a
What
fun
do
thing.
you think
and
the
then
chances
it's really
are
creepy.
with someone like yours? I'm like,
Not good.
Not good.
Not good.
Yeah. Hey, lass, it's great. Did you notice? I only noticed it this time. Leia in her first scene with Grand Moff Tarkin speaks with a British accent for a bit,
Yes, I did.
She does?
and I was like,
Now I gotta
yes.
go
Oh,
back.
it's hilarious.
I like
And you're
this.
like, what is that? Why did she do that? And then this is one of those things I found out. So there's two stories of this.
I was like, I know
one
one
is
of them.
she was just kind of taken by Peter Cushing, and like you do, you just kind of imitate people you're around, and so she started speaking with a British accent.
Mm-hmm.
The other, like, probably less real retcon version is that was her mocking him.
Oh, nice.
Like, I'm going to use a British accent.
Perfect.
But it just felt like she just slipped into imitating
Assimilated a little bit.
Yep.
Like, ooh.
in a few words, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
I didn't recall this.
Yeah.
She British? You know? It's like, no, she's not.
Her accent's all over the board. It feels like she's doing a princess. She's doing herself, or she's doing a transatlantic, or she's doing British. She's kind of all over the place in this movie.
Yeah. The other thing, which you commented on, I didn't feel as much this time, that Luke was overly whiny. You know, the reading of like, I want to go to Tashi Station is pretty bad.
That's
always. But then you
I need
kind
a
of
new
go, well,
power
he's
converter.
he's on a journey, and it's like, yeah, he is this kind of whiny kid, and then he's confident, and then he's like,
Once his aunt and uncle die,
insane.
he seems to snap out of it and grow up.
No, he's the same.
There's like the moment where he sees their burned carcasses, and he's like, I feel like that's the part where he stops being that whiny.
No. You say it's so loud. Why do you just wake up the whole thing? The whole time they're running around, he has these whiny comments the whole time. It's just
so
the
I
same
agree, but
dude.
It didn't bother me in a way that like pop culture has taught me that Luke is overly whiny. It's like, he's whiny, but it's fine. And he's the young character.
It's a good.
He's playing opposite
of Hans. I know it's great. I think it's great, but it's still hilarious because then you have. It's just a great like. Hans is the classic chauvinist pig who everyone loves.
You keep saying Hans. You keep saying Hans. It's Han.
Han is?
I blame the German beer.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. It's not Hans
and
Franz. Olo.
We're going to pump
it's
you
Han
up.
Solo.
You up.
Yeah. You know what doesn't bother me about that? The whininess is that when you fast forward or backward to episode 1 and there's little baby Anakin, they're pretty similar in the whininess.
Like father, like son.
Yeah, they're whiny to like. Yeah, it's like, well, this is a family trait, not in the women, but in the men.
I mean, except Anakin was born into slavery, and you know, like he had more to whine about than Luke. I guess he lived on a moisture farm with seemingly no friends because they're cut out of the movie.
And you know the uncle, like they're in the robot slave trade. Like you know the uncle's probably abusive, and like that was probably it's just an awkward situation.
Did that bother you? The kind of dismissiveness toward the lives of droids who are clearly very sentient in this world.
It's
kind of like
so.
It's kind of sketchy.
It felt so like historically bad, but like we're watching. I think that's what makes Star Wars great because it feels.
You're dismissive because they're not actual humans.
No, not at all. In fact, I'd go the other way. It feels like we're watching a history piece as well as a future piece. So it feels like this could have taken place in the 1850s in America at a shipyard, or it could have taken place 200 years from now in the desert of Tatooine. So that's what I think is actually great about it, because it is people historically.
Yeah, it's a slave trade.
Horrible. So I love that they're just. It's like the opposite of Star Trek, where we're enlightened and everything's kind of better. But in Star Wars, we're like, no, we're this. Yeah.
Well, and I think in Star Trek,
there's
the
slaves
droids are
all over the
smarter
place in Star Wars,
and
including
more
droids.
manipulative and certainly considered equal.
Luke is generally friendly toward certainly R2. He yells at C-3PO all the time, but I think there is something to our main characters
Well, he's a butler.
to
Solid
tend to
gold
like the
butler.
droids,
Yeah.
right? Like I think that is a thing. The good characters are friendly to droids, and you kind of get this like, they care about everybody vibe.
They care
because of that.
They
maybe
care about
subtly.
Dobby. They actually care about Dobby. They don't just have Dobby as a slave.
Exactly. It's the house elf. They're house droids.
It's the same movie.
And
no one cared about Jar Jar.
No one cares about Jar Jar.
No, poor Jar Jar.
Said
but no,
no
that was
one.
weird.
But that's
also,
a good point.
But then,
considering the Empire has the droid army.
Yeah.
The goofy.
Yeah.
Roger.
Which is kind of this other funny thing too. If you go back in history,
Goofy,
it's like
goofy.
droids probably murdered a bunch of people's families. And so
While
there should be an
saying
uneasiness around
goofy
droids.
things. Roger.
Yeah.
Death.
Yeah. Roger.
Death to your children.
The two things that really made me crack up. Well, speaking of dark stuff, C-3PO, I'm pretty sure tosses a Jawa body onto a fire after
Dude,
they went and discovered it.
Thank you for bringing this up.
Dark is that?
First of all,
I
He's
was
like,
wondering
plop.
what he'd thrown. I was like,
Oh my
what
gosh.
is he throwing? Is it just a robe, I hope? Or is that like
No.
something?
Why would he just be tossing a
Okay.
robe into a fire?
I
He's
don't
burning
know.
a Jawa
we gotta
body.
set up this scene because this scene is horrific on so many levels, and then we just kind of breeze by it.
Oh, yeah.
Obi-Wan Kenobi says, "Oh yeah, go. You don't want to go there." When he fully knows they're dead and burned, probably because he's a psychopath.
And then they just stand there and watch Luke go.
Oh, and the second he's gone, they're burning Jawas. Like he's so much not like can relate to people anymore.
That's how Jedi are buried. So maybe he's honoring them just in one big pile.
Yeah, one big whoop.
Yeah, it's just C-3PO is just like
it's really inconvenient to dig in the sand that deep. It's probably really hard. Burning.
Maybe that's how Jawas
sense.
like to get buried, is one big pile of burning Jawas.
Maybe Obi-Wan Kenobi's a psycho and just burns bodies for the joy of it. You don't know. We don't know. He burned Darth Vader. He's got a history, folks. This isn't something new he's done.
Well, isn't Alec
This
Guinness
could be
Scottish? Don't they have like isn't that what they do to their dead?
Well,
there's
a version.
Yeah. I mean, I'll burn you guys.
Luke was like, "Oh, sand people," and Obi-Wan's like, "No, it wasn't. It's the Empire." And they probably are, and so like there's a version really where it was sand people who killed all these people, right? Sand people went and killed his uncle and Obi-Wan's manipulating Luke.
I love it.
Into joining up because he's like, aha, you're ready to become a Jedi, so I can retire.
Yeah.
So it could be a whole thing.
Oh.
Yeah. Well,
Obi-Wan's
officially from his body.
Well, it certainly works out
it
for
was
him
dark.
in the end. Yeah.
It was dark, and then the thing I remember from watching this from the first time is seeing Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru's
brutal
burned up corpses.
Yeah. It still is disturbing to me. And the fact that Luke, it's the first time he doesn't act like a whiny baby about something.
Oh, he's awesome there.
He handles it in a almost dead inside
Apparently,
way. Like he's pat.
That was actually some direction. Yeah, more like how I would have done it. George Lucas was like, don't react big. Apparently told him like, don't, because I think he did a take and he falls to his knees and it's all dramatic. George is like,
I'm already done with your whining. Let's not do that anymore.
Yeah. George's like, I don't understand those emotions.
He is a good director.
He has the Dawson's Creek cry on the bridge.
Yeah.
Not
maybe George didn't understand.
First of all,
George didn't understand what he was doing because he was emoting. It's like, stop that.
Stop.
Yeah.
Just have a blank face.
Yeah. This is where you become a man.
And you know what Harrison?
Yeah, no, that was hilarious to me. And then making a very specific point to be like, these shots are too precise for sand people. Only the Imperial stormtroopers shoot this well. And then you watch the entire saga, and the joke is
they're horrible shots.
No one shoots well.
Out. Yeah.
You just go strolling down the hallway and pew 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 pew. Nothing is going in a line.
It's the joke of the stormtrooper shoots at the guy in Star Trek with the red shirt, and he
red
misses,
shirts.
But he still dies.
A couple other ones that I kind of noticed. Leia calls Han a flyboy before I think we ever established he's a pilot in some line, and I thought, that was weird. And then it's amazing that Jedi.
He had pilot pants.
I mean, what did you?
But how did she know he flew? How did she know he flew?
A little whiny guy didn't fly.
If you think about how popular Jedis become, but you only look at what we know of Jedis in this movie.
Oh, you're getting deep
all we
now.
see is Jedis are sad old men flailing around with sticks. It's not cool at all in this movie. Like the fight,
it's not
the lightsaber fight is terrible. It is terrible to watch. It's not cool. And yet,
no wonder why Alec Guinness just gives up and is like, just cut me.
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of people.
He does a spin move one time. It's sad. It's so
Alec
slow.
Guinness. He doesn't even want to be there.
Sir, Alec Guinness.
Okay, I like
it's like Dumbledore getting in a fist fight. How does he have the energy anyway? He's 180 years old.
All right, let's this.
He knows he's gonna sacrifice
you
himself.
Guys are missing the whole point of this sword fight. I can't believe I'm defending the sword fight. And are you gonna hold R2D2 the entire time?
No, I'm not saying it's the
Why
wrong.
Why are you holding your lightsaber while you're talking right now?
It's a knockoff lightsaber. It's not like a real Star Wars lightsaber.
Okay.
It's not that the lightsaber fight story-wise.
You mute yourself again.
It's that
you're muted.
Pat, you're muted.
I think, came out of the movie being like, I want to be a Jedi. Oh no! You stopped hearing me. Oh no! The recording probably still hears me.
Yeah, you should charge your
matter
stuff.
that I can't hear you.
Nope.
This is what happens when you're wrong, folks.
He hung up.
Me. Oh, it's so awkward.
Are you calling me back?
So what Pat was saying is that his opinions may not be right because he doesn't have a good, correct view of Star Wars, and because Pat's limited, experience in the sci-fi world, you can't actually believe the things he says. Mm-hmm. So, just everything that Pat says, basically from here on out, you just don't have to. Really acknowledge it as
Take
something
it with
that's
a grain of salt.
It doesn't even matter.
The hecky?
Calling you.
Pat's opinions don't matter. No, I think R2D2 took the feed.
Yeah.
This is great. He must have an Android.
Yeah, I answered the phone.
This is a phone.
You hung up.
Okay.
Please leave your message for.
Oh no, it went to voicemail.
We should leave a message for him here. Oh, you hung up. Okay. Hello. Anyway, so that's why Pat's opinion doesn't matter.
Okay.
Welcome back, Pat.
Long story short.
I'm going to have to edit that out. That's going to be so obnoxious. I hope you're happy with yourself.
I didn't do anything.
What do you mean you didn't do anything?
But you just were talking and nothing
came out. It was honestly, it was like the best part of the episode.
And you couldn't hear us when we said, we can't hear you.
Yeah. There might have been
We should dub them. I'll do that in the post.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of dubbing in Star Wars, so it'd be appropriate.
The whole back to Owen and Varut, they were not synced up to anything.
They dubbed her voice, apparently, the whole thing.
She didn't even get to
and
use
like
her voice.
It wasn't her voice. Wedge is dubbed. There's always like dubbing. They're just like, nah, we don't like that guy.
Wedge is played by two people, but then the original person comes back to play him again later. That's the craziest thing about Wedge. Like, and who is he? He's
Ewan McGregor's uncle.
Ewan McGregor's uncle.
No.
Wedge is the original Wedge is.
I didn't know that.
I think second Wedge, who becomes real Wedge.
Wedgie. Wedgie 2.
I think first Wedge is the guy with the mustache sitting next to Luke, going like, "That's impossible," and he's like, "I shot wolf rats bigger than that, and they're, whatever."
Oh yeah.
I think that was meant to be real Wedge, and they fired that guy,
It's
and
like-
then
Just
they
like
hired
back
second
in
Wedge,
Winer's Canyon, or
but
wherever it was called.
they dubbed Beggars Canyon,
Beggars Canyon.
but then they dubbed both of them by some other guy.
Oh.
That's
I don't know why. Anyway, my point was,
Ugh.
if you look at all the stuff Jedi do in this movie, outside of force choking, it's all pretty weak sauce. There's nothing you go, whoa, it's interesting. It's an interesting part of the universe. But with where it goes, it's kind of nothing. Alec Guinness throws a mind pebble. He does a little bit of
A mind pebble.
These
it's
are not-
like throwing a rock.
These
You
are
just
not the
didn't have one.
droids you're looking
These
for.
are the droids. He
Yeah.
does chop a guy's arm off, and that's pretty BA.
Yeah.
But then the fight, you're like, it's not obviously about the fight, but it kind of is. The fight goes on a long time for him to go out.
It's a lot of
You
trash.
strike me down, I'll be
trash
stronger
talking.
than you can possibly imagine. Anyway,
Now I am the
I would like to.
master.
I would like to say that obviously the reason why they're not flipping is because their force is so strong with each other that they don't. They're obviously just fighting. So there's no room to jump around because the force is so strong with them.
yeah.
I feel like
It's
the
an
trash
easy
talk is the more
explanation.
powerful force in that battle.
And I think when we get
If
we get the Empire in Return, I think the lightsabering is cool, and they start levitating stuff. And it's like, oh, cool. This one, it's just a thing. I don't think.
You don't think the choking?
I think as many people were like, I want to be Han Solo as they want to be Luke Skywalker, right?
Well, I think
Because
people
Luke
want.
wasn't a big Jedi yet.
Well, and I think Obi-Wan wasn't really
Never
that
was.
great a Jedi anyway. I think
Because
Yoda
he was the bad guy.
You
Obi-Wan's
had to
the
get
bad
to,
guy.
You had to get to Yoda before you had any good force working.
Well, because Obi-Wan and
You
Darth
see
Vader.
Yoda. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, that was most of my takeaways from this one. Fresh eyes. Again, all of it overshadowed by how good the movie seemingly looked and sounded.
It was so good.
Big fan.
I actually watched part of it with the earbuds in. So
Nice headphones.
It was so great. I was like, oh,
Really good.
I need to get surround sound in my house. This is amazing. So,
Yeah.
and I couldn't believe I knew.
Well, you can count on the technology at the time.
Oh, they were way
Because,
ahead of the game.
course, George Lucas
way ahead
was
of the game. Yeah,
good at that.
yeah. The understanding how humans interact with each other, not so good.
No.
Not so good.
No.
Not so good.
So,
But
are
it
you
worked
te-
out this time.
This is you guys. I haven't looked this up, so I'm just literally asking questions as a hater or a fan.
Layman.
Yeah. Why didn't he direct the second and third one? Is it because he did such a bad job in the first one, or was that just not part of the contract, or how'd they get out of letting him do the second and third one?
Well, he produced it.
Oh, okay.
I
So
don't
maybe
know that he wanted to.
That's so
Question mark.
interesting.
Yeah, I think he was
Right?
in
Because
like
it was Lucas
story
Films by
by.
then, right?
Yeah, so he's just making bank. He doesn't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he was just interested in other stuff. Although I think he really likes the idea bits, right? I think he liked coming up with stories for him, but he didn't have to. This movie almost killed him because of the stress. He went to the hospital and they're like, "You are overexerted and whatever." It's like, could you take it easy? No, not possible.
He's like, I'm
So I think it
building
wasn't fun.
building my empire. Yeah,
I think
that.
this part of it wasn't as fun.
You know why it was probably hard? Because he had to deal with people, and that doesn't seem to be his strong suit. He seems
Yeah.
to be better with the robots and the thoughts of,
Yeah. He has a touch of the tism,
Yes. Nice.
which worked out for him.
I
for
think
this.
we haven't given C-3PO his credit because sure, he's whiny, but doggone it if he's not funny.
He's a great
It's a
little
great
butler.
character. And shout
I do
outs
love the
to
part where they're
Metropolis for
stuck in the trash
design.
compactor. Or two, they're dying.
That was a great little bit.
So good.
Yeah.
No, I don't like you either. There's
such a
so
good
much
bit.
good conversation and some good one-liners.
Yeah. I thought I was going to be annoyed by C-3PO, but he's just funny enough, and it's because it's the one-sided conversation joke that they keep going with. It's just a really good, real good bit. And Harrison Ford is so Harrison Fordy. It's like this is the moment he becomes the icon that is Harrison Ford, and it's weird that because in American Graffiti he was kind of, but he had like no lines. Hey, nice car. Like, whatever he said.
Kind of cool guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a cool guy.
But this, like, when he's in the cantina and he's like rubbing the wall and like just kind of like, he's just swinging. He's just, he's there.
Him playing with the wall as he's unloading his gun.
Little scene. Oh.
Yeah.
You've never heard of the Millennium Falcon?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I was listening to people talk about the characters in the cantina and the backstory of every single character, and they describe just the Wolfman and the little arm that it was like.
Wolfman was cut out of the one we watched.
Oh my gosh!
I don't think he was.
There was the Wolfman and the arm lover that was like.
Yes.
Oh my gosh! And they have this whole story and how they fought. Oh, it's insane. I don't understand. Like, this movie is so good, it doesn't need a sequel. And imagine if there wasn't anything else. If this movie had not become the ridiculous universe it is now.
I think it still would have become the universe because it would have been animated and it would have been books and it would have been characters.
Let's cut that.
And the
let's cut that.
swag and
let's cut that. Let's just say this movie just came out by itself. Nothing else.
Right. I'm saying even if it wasn't a trilogy, there was going to be there was going to be the merchandising. There was going to be.
But imagine no merch, no nothing. I think this movie is still that good.
Yeah, but there's no way they weren't going to do merch.
Well, yeah, George Lucas is going to get paid, but
especially
his whole deal.
40% of
the merch.
And also that being like a thing that people didn't even do.
Oh, for sure.
It's because normally it didn't work out well.
There was nothing. Like,
it was bad.
What merch from a movie ever had worked out before that? Nothing.
I don't think very many things.
I don't know.
They have Maltese Falcon action figures.
Oh, you beat me too. I was gonna go Casablanca.
Yeah.
Casablanca
on the lunchbox. Casablanca on the T-shirt.
My Gone with the Wind sandwich pack. I don't even know. There's so many horrible.
My Civil War reenactment playset. No.
My plantation playset.
Yeah. Yikes.
Ooh, baby. Got some grits on that.
One of my fun facts, speaking of like the cantina scene, the devil who's in there, is apparently it was a Rick Baker mask. Rick Baker, famous for a billion visual effects, and it's just he's just sitting there giving like side eyes, and it's so good. I think the thing that George Lucas also did in this movie that was amazing. It's related to the one-sided conversations. Like, that's just the whole universe. Like, we are not in this one. We're just dropped into the middle. Not everything is over-explained to us. You just go, okay, yeah, I don't understand what that guy says, but this other person does. Mm-hmm. And you go, great, cool. I understand what's going on. I know enough. And everything else feels just kind of exotic in a fun way.
Yeah, it's so it's so believable you're in different planets. It's so believable that you're not ever questioning that piece of it. You're questioning like, wait a minute, Leia just had a British accent. Like,
yeah.
But the world, there's no issue.
The fact that Han really only understands Chewie and C-3PO really understands R2 and the stormtroopers understood that weird, snout guy, the spy. Yeah. You just go, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't understand, they don't all speak basic.
Sure.
Which is English.
Moisture farmers in Tatooine. Of course. That makes sense. Yeah. That's a thing.
So good.
Yeah.
I mean, you need moisture, right? in the desert.
The crazy thing about
Wouldn't
this,
you call that like a well driller? Or
nope, different.
Nope.
Here's farming
Totally different.
moisture.
Let's jump into. Do you guys want to talk about Frank Herbert at all? Any spice?
Maybe
You guys
suing.
want to talk about spice?
Maybe suing.
Sued for this? Any Dune references that we had in here?
no,
Yeah.
because that's different.
No.
We're not.
Well,
talking-
No, it's
Tatooine
not.
wasn't supposed to be a desert planet initially.
And the big desert worm skeleton that you saw there, I was like,
well, it's already dead. It's fine.
pretty
It
great.
was from something else.
Oh, we got to
I
talk
think.
about the sound that Obi-Wan makes to scare away the sand people. So apparently that changes in every version.
Oh,
Oh, really?
Not only does it change in every version, so the one that we watched, that's like supposed to be the sound of the sand
Well,
dragon
that
of that big
dragon thing.
skeleton. So that's what's
see, it's a dragon, not a worm. It's very
And
different.
Yeah.
The
It-
spice
it
is a different type of spice than
shows-
Dune. Oh my gosh.
It shows up in some other Star Wars thing, a live one.
Do they have blue milk
But yeah.
in Dune?
Yeah. They have it's the
Do they? Yeah.
it's anyways.
Yeah. My understanding was there was a lawsuit for the amount of, it's kind of too many coincidences to be a coincidence. And so they dropped the lawsuit.
The movie's not as
Right.
bad as like the books and the further stuff. Like the worst case that I saw was the Boba Fett series. They literally were like mining spice just like they do in Dune, and spice, you get addicted to spice just like you do in Dune. So they made offhanded comments about it in this, and even the Kessel Run is where they mine spice and all that stuff. But
Yeah.
it's not exact, but it's definitely a template that George Lucas used to make the Star Wars universe. And it's hard because
Among many other things. This is
for sure Metropolis.
George Lucas was AI
Oh yeah.
mashing together things before AI existed,
Oh yeah,
right?
the Metropolis
little bit of-
being R2 or C3PO, like that's ridiculous.
Flash
That's-
Gordon.
of
the,
course we're-
hidden fortress,
yeah.
just dogfighting documentaries or whatever.
Car movies.
Man with 1,000 Faces, or Hero with 1,000 Faces. All the stuff, right? He's just like, it's just a stew of things, and it's a good stew.
Yeah,
I think it's one of those interesting, like,
Well, and
you
they
picked
didn't, and they
a bunch of
didn't.
interesting stuff.
Yeah, and those other contributors didn't come up with Star Wars. This is different. There are some things that were taken, but
Yeah, and Dune is a very complex world as well, so it's hard because I'm like, well, yeah, because if you read all the books of Dune,
right. Well,
It's
and at
pretty
the
crazy.
time, Dune wasn't even a dream of a
movie.
franchise or a movie
No, it-
or multiple movies.
oh
or,
no, not at all.
But now-
but the book series was quite sought after
Yeah.
in the sci-fi community.
Yeah.
Like if you're in that community, which George Lucas 1,000% was.
I can only imagine what a big Dune
I
nerd he could have been.
bet he was a big Dune nerd. So yeah, it's interesting because I finally read all of the Frank Herbert Dunes, and I would suggest the first 3 and then not read anything else.
They're just so big. I don't know.
No, they're fine. It's a good world building as well. It's very very interesting. I'm in for the sci-fi stuff, but the problem with this movie is every silly little mistake has become its own thing right now. It's as bad as it's like making laws in the United States. Every miswritten sentence in our Declaration of Independence has consequences that have reverberated for years and years.
Well, yeah, they've retconned everything into some intentional.
It's
why didn't
insane.
C-3PO know who Princess Leia was? Oh, he did. He just was programmed not to admit to that. Why didn't Obi-Wan remember R2-D2, even though they'd been on a bunch of adventures together? It's like, he just was if you kind of look at Alec Guinness, he's kind of a wink and a nodding, like, I never owned a droid like this. Anyway, there's like all these like, none of it was
You've actually not established the storyline yet, and we'll make that work later.
It's so crazy.
Don't worry about that
Luke
right now.
want to make out with his sister?
He didn't. Well, he didn't
why
know.
would George allow that in this movie?
Hey, Joe Dirt had the same problem.
And how come Darth Vader felt Obi-Wan's presence, but not his own children? Like, if the Force was so strong in them, like,
well, you know what?
You're talking to your daughter right
Easy
now.
Easy answer. He doesn't like sand because it gets all over the place, and Luke was on a sand planet. It's an easy answer.
He's like in her face, like, I'm gonna get you to talk, and she's like, whatever.
That's my I came up with that by myself, by the way.
Well, it's because she doesn't know who she is.
He's not a cat person.
He's a cat person.
Doesn't like litter boxes.
Must because they don't know. Right, it only matters when they know.
Apparently.
Only when the awareness is happening
so
do you feel it.
Oh, and even the Thrawn books.
There's a whole book called "From a Certain Point of View," which is the whole like, I wasn't really lying to you, Luke, that Darth Vader betrayed or murdered your father. It's true from a certain point of view, and so that's like the whole.
I got it. He figuratively.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff when you go.
The good Vader died, or the good
Have you
Anakin
seen
died
the
that day.
terrorist thing?
No, we're not going on tangents.
No, it's not tangent at all.
Okay.
Like Luke's talking to his dad, like, "Why did you do this?" He's like, "Oh, they're terrorists. Of course you're gonna kill them." And so instead of saying rebel, they use the word terrorist, and it explains everything. And then you know what Darth Vader looks like? Fine. He looks like a normal government. He looks like a normal. He's like, but you captured this person, destroyed this planet. Well, yeah, they are all terrorists.
Yeah.
And then the whole thing goes around, and then the last thing he says, like, didn't you like murder a bunch of children? It's like, oh, doggone it. Okay, fine.
Yeah, if you hadn't started with that,
it's like you killed Obi-Wan Kenobi. Yeah, because he's
ditched your pregnant wife.
Younglings.
Yeah, my kids became terrorists.
Dude, before we, there's a lot of fun facts. I just try to only pick out a few.
Same.
That because it could go on for years, and
long.
There's better podcasts about all of it.
Mm-hmm.
No, there's not, guys. This is the best. You shut your mouth, Pat.
I mean, this is peak, but there's some more in-depth ones, maybe.
There's so many more in-depth ones.
Well, I think some that were fun because it's so George Lucas-y is around like box office, like sharing box office or sharing, getting merchandising rights. So like Mariah mentioned, it was 2.5%. Steven Spielberg gets 2.5% of Star Wars. George Lucas gets 2.5% of Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Steven came out a little better on that front. Mm-hmm. But also, because these weird, kind of coming out of the indie director scene, they're all like buddies. Like, Lucas showed this to all his director buddies, like Brian De Palma and everybody.
The Brian De Palma one cracks me up. Imagine him helping him with dialogue.
Well, yeah. So Brian De Palma rewriting the scroll at the beginning to be like understandable is crazy.
So great.
And then everyone in the room being like, this is not good. Yeah. Except for Steven Spielberg being like, this is going to be amazing. Yeah. And he being right is so funny to me.
Yeah.
We talked about the Ewan McGregor's uncle being in this, which is pretty funny.
Mm-hmm.
By the way.
Oh, yeah. And then Oh, go on.
Brian De Palma, in case you don't know, Carrie, Dress to Kill, Scarface, The Untouchables, the original Mission Impossible. Okay, good going. I just want people to know. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Good director.
Yeah. Kind of a creeper, but good director.
The big controversy for Star Wars fans is when they re-edited it for the special editions, Greedo shot first,
which is so dumb. It's even edited poorly. It looks weird.
It's weird. Well, and they artificially, much like when Han walks over Jabba's tail, they like shove his head aside as if he like avoided the shot, which is crazy. So anyway, supposedly, in a little bit of George Lucas' defense, the MPAA was like re-rating it, and they're like, you can't have Han shoot first or something. And so that was a reason of doing it. George didn't, in theory, want to do it. It was like hey, we can get our rating back to PG if Han isn't like just murdering a guy, for no reason. Which I don't really understand that. I guess good guys can't murder people.
It has to be self-defense.
Hans isn't a good guy.
Yeah.
What I love about this movie is Hans is just a killer. Like, he just kills people.
Han.
Who? No, I'm talking about Han Solo.
Not Hans Gruber.
Yeah,
It's Han Solo.
Yeah, Han
That's
Solo.
not Hans.
Not Hans.
His last name's
It's not
Olo.
Hans Olo.
It's Hans. Are you telling me it's not Han Olo? I love Olo.
Next thing you're going to say is this is a Christmas movie.
I love Buster Douglas.
Hey, holiday special. Some cut footage was using the holiday special.
By the way, I have a holiday Lego set, but my kids have thrown it several times.
Oh.
But it's like modern, so it has like BB-8 instead of like
nice.
R2-D2, and it's got Leia with a lightsaber for some reason, and it's got Chewie, and it's a very interesting thing.
Well,
anyways.
Leia trained with a lightsaber at some point in time.
Does she? Oh, good.
I think they show that, like, glimpse of that in one of the new movies. Anyway,
It is a bummer she didn't get her own movie, because she was supposed to get a movie. That was supposed to be the thing. Oh, no, that's
It's too late.
too late. Sorry.
so Ben Burt, who is sound designer for this
Hebert.
hero, Ben Burt.
He didn't do Hero. Sorry.
Apparently,
Is a hero.
Oh.
Maybe.
the long snoot, I think that was his name, the spy who was like, they're right here. His voice is just John Wayne, like, sped up or something. Like, it's literally John Wayne's voice messed with. And that's what that character sounds like. What a weird choice and kind of an amazing
Did they get
callback.
sued by that, or?
I think it's definitely modified enough no one would know,
Okay.
I guess.
That's a great.
Yeah,
Manipulated.
apparently that's where it came from.
Way to go, Snoot Dog.
And then the other one, which we haven't talked about, which is sort of like we've been flirting with it.
Okay.
So the original cut of this was terrible, like bad. George Lucas happened to be married to a pretty good editor
Yes, he
and
was.
had editor friends. And
Yes, he
basically
was.
they fixed the movie. Almost everything about this movie changed for the better in the edit.
Yes.
They rearranged scenes. They added the tension of the Death Star about to fire on the Rebel base. Wasn't in the original version of the
That's
movie.
hilarious.
So, like, Luke having this one shot right as the base was getting into range, not in the original. The tension of that, not there. Luke took 2 shots at it. He missed the first time. Then he switches to, not using the computer. But, like, in this one, it's like, no, Luke's got 1 shot. The Death Star's almost there. That's why no main characters are talking about being in range.
Oh.
If you look back, it's always this insert shot of, like, the Death Star getting close and, like, a voiceover being like 30 minutes, to range.
I love
it. Wasn't in the original version.
I love that.
And so, like, they saved Star Wars for the rest of us.
Yeah.
Like,
thank you.
There's
guys.
so many scenes that they were like, let's rearrange this entire scene so it flows better. And it was, again, like, getting around George's problems is a huge theme of this movie. And that was one of them.
Okay, we got to say this.
So thank you, Marsha
Thank
Lucas.
you, Marsha Lucas.
Star Wars.
And then, of course, George divorces her, and he keeps all the money.
Of course.
Of course.
Of course.
That's the world. Okay, I just have to say this on air multiple times. Why don't we talk about editors? Because directors get too much credit and editors don't get enough. It's the stinking editors who make these movies. There's no such thing as a best picture without an editor. As someone who has to edit every day,
or pay someone to do it.
but I understand.
But how and why?
But how and why?
It's such an important thing.
It's such an important thing.
Yeah.
And I am fully grateful for my good editors, and I am fully grateful for.
And not grateful for your not good editor.
Well,
probably.
I've had to deal with mediocre footage that was given to me, and then make it somewhat okay. And I'm sure my
It's
editors
tough.
say the same thing about me when
We're
I
like,
shoot.
oh,
It's
not that
tough.
guy again.
But it's doable if
Tough
you're
not having good footage.
if you have a good editor who can be creative enough. The edit is so important. But in the crazy world of cinema, we like the person who's telling people what they need to do on set. When that is arguably, like the president of the United States, one of the least important positions.
Right.
Of
And
what's
definitely
actually going
not the
on.
one that gets getting the job done.
Arguably, you could get rid of the director before you get rid of anybody else and still get the movie done. Arguably. Because you could still be like, okay, let's start the scene, guys. Are you guys
You
ready?
could argue it. It would be weird.
It'd be weird.
But yes.
It'd be the
yes.
it'd be
I
the
think-
Star Trek collective society that we want.
I think when it's good directors are a big part of the edit, right? Like, and I think that's where George, I don't know that he was. I don't know that he could see
So,
his movie
That's
the
very
same way.
that's director to director because you have like the
He knew what
Stanley
he wanted
Kubrick
to shoot.
approach.
He just didn't know how it was all going to become a movie.
No, George Lucas
Maybe.
doesn't
Well,
understand.
I think
things.
he didn't. I think he thought he had a movie in the version of it through the script. Because again, this is his script, his direction, but the edit had to go fix all that stuff that he thought was good.
Okay, we got to talk about this because we haven't done this sort of thing where we break it down. Kurosawa, edited, shot, directed. He did it all. He's an amazing film maker, and maybe we should just use the word filmmaker, not director, because I would be, and I don't even know Steven Spielberg's like how much he has a hand on the pulse for editing. Kubrick's.
He storyboards a lot, and so he is sort of
He has
editing
a
by way of
finished.
storyboarding.
He has a
Right.
good vision before it
Also,
actually.
not all the time. Sometimes he just shoots stuff, and they gotta fix it.
Yeah,
But
fix it. Yeah. So it's probably project to project. So that would be an interesting thing because there are definitely times where I'm like, this director can direct anything, but the editors are who make it. And that's why some of these directors who we like don't know as well because they don't have like a style. So I bet that's probably how it kind of goes. Like, oh, you directed a comedy and a serious movie and a documentary. Oh, you're
Yeah,
just a
it's kinda
pretty good
workhorses. Yeah.
manager. Okay. And then the editors are all different and the cinematographers are all different. And like, so that's why I start to really,
Yeah.
because some directors like, hey, we're using a 50 millimeter 1.2 on this angle. Okay. We're going to shoot this one wide. Or you have,
which I think is Spielberg-y.
yes. Or you have the other ones who are like, okay, Roger Deakin, do your thing.
Well, apparently on this movie, the DP, what is his name?
Research team.
Research team. I had
Research team.
it. Gilbert Taylor.
Gilbert Taylor.
He and George strongly disagreed on how to shoot this movie,
I love it.
and the studio ended up going with the DP.
Weird.
George wanted some weird filter the whole time. He was like, no.
Of course he did, because he's a terrible director.
But where was I going with that? Oh, yeah. And so in this case, but George, sorry, my brain's all over the place. George would be like, hey, it's too bright. Turn off that light and that light. Because George came from indie filmmaking, right? Like
Right.
low budget. He
Yep.
was doing more stuff.
THX.
That's what he was used to. And Gilbert Taylor was like, nope. Tell me what you want different about the overall scene and I will change the lights. You don't tell me which lights to turn off. Like they did not like each other.
I
Like,
love
very
it.
many people like George Lucas on this production.
No.
But again, like I think there's a lot of foundational things he set up that made it all possible to be good, and then other people fulfilled that vision.
Yeah.
Gilbert-
Executed.
Gilbert Taylor's the man.
Yeah, he's got
Doctor
a good pedigree.
Strangelove, Hard Day's
Mhm.
Night, Repulsion, The Omen. This movie called Star Wars, apparently. That's like all
Yeah.
over the board. He's just done like crazy stuff. He's worked with Polanski, Kubrick, Hitchcock, Hodges. Jeez Louise.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Not too shabby.
And this is him arguing with George Lucas right there in the cover picture. That's perfect.
I'm
That's
gonna
so great.
I'm gonna tell my fun facts that I
Ooh,
like.
go
Yeah,
for
do
it.
your fun facts.
let's see my faves. So Peter Mayhew and David Prowse were given a choice as to who they wanted to be, because both of these big characters,
Really?
you didn't need to see their faces.
Oh.
And one wanted to be a good guy and one wanted to be a bad guy, and that's how they chose who was going to be Chewie and who was going to be Darth Vader.
That's amazing.
Which is hilarious.
That's so good.
Yes.
First of all, thank goodness he didn't speak. Have you seen the dailies where Darth Vader has a
Peter
British
or
accent?
David Prowse.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
awful.
Not
It's
meant to be.
awful. It's another prissy British person being the bad guy.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Also, Chewbacca suit after the
yes, the swamps
Crusher.
Oh, it's so good.
garbage is stunk the rest of the
rest of
movie,
the time.
which
Ugh.
is hilarious because you can only imagine like
Gross.
somebody get this walking carpet away from me. Probably really did smell terrible.
It probably smelled terrible before
Yeah.
that, and then you add that to it.
Yeah.
Oh, bleh,
Yeah.
bleh.
Yeah.
I did. Did you notice in that scene he is kind of up higher,
Uh-huh.
like kind of out of the water, and
Yeah.
I thought that is
Brilliant.
for sure because they want him to not get wet. But also, I thought it was really funny this like beastly guy being like a little bit like the most afraid in the scene. I
Oh
thought it
yeah,
was great. From, like, this
especially once they
character
even get
standpoint.
out, or they're like, "Chewie, get back!" And I'm like, "No, you big
I'm
coward!" It's like, "No,
It's so crazy.
No.
So this is the crazy thing
What a
about
funny
Chewie in this
character.
movie. He's
Yeah.
supposed to be this beast, and he is.
He could rip people's arms off."
Yeah, and in every like thing I've read and watched since then, like the Wookiees are these unstoppable force of creatures, but Chewie half the time is like, nope, big other creature, I'm out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bit of a
Well,
chicken.
because I think Peter Mayhew is just such a sweet person that like it just comes through, and it kind of makes his character great because he is intimidating at times in the movies.
Mm-hmm.
But like most of the time when he's interacting with the group, he's this kind of like big cuddly sweetheart, and it's this
Right.
kind of great dynamic.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And he does feel more lovable. He feels more teddy bearish.
Yeah.
Shoot, I'm going personal. When I was at Disneyland last year, Dottie knows like two things about Star Wars. Just a couple things. I have like the Darth Vader, Princess Leia storybook that we read. So unfortunately, thing about that, she already knows that Darth Vader's Leia's dad. So that's a spoiler alert. But we go to Star Wars land, and Chewie gives her a big hug, and he was so sweet. It's the biggest, scariest teddy bear ever, but it was just the best thing ever. I'm like, oh, this is
We
the
got
best.
Chewie. I think he waved at us when we were there
Yeah.
recently. It was great.
He didn't hug you, huh?
No, always great. It's a thrill
No hugs. He
seeing
hugged
that
us.
big.
He gave us a hug.
Like apparently, speaking of Chewie, apparently at some point they thought it was weird that he was naked. They wanted to give
Yeah.
him shorts for
Yeah.
a bit, which
That
is
would have looked
hilarious.
so strange.
I mean,
Leave him naked.
it's awkward when it's that time of the year, I suppose. But other than that, it's pretty fine. It's just fine.
Yeah. Hey, Ryan, what else you got?
Once a year.
Oh, Peter Cushing. So
love-
I'm sitting here watching,
Pat's
thinking,
the one who edits us to make
Yeah.
us more appropriate.
Yeah.
Isn't that hilarious?
yeah. Peter Cushing said his boots were so uncomfortable that there's only a few scenes where he's actually having to wear them because there's not a lot where it's actually showing his full body.
That's so good.
And he's
I love
wearing-
that. Is he wearing Uggs?
He's wearing fuzzy slippers the rest of the movie.
He's wearing freaking Uggs.
So then
Peter
it's even
Cushing.
funnier watching his like dark, evil face and then just picturing fuzzy slippers on him the whole time. You're like, oh my
Okay,
gosh.
here's a nice little hot take. Peter Cushing is really the Obi-Wan, and Alec Guinness is the freaking evil.
Almost. Speaking of casting, I think that was a possibility that Peter Cushing would have been Obi-Wan.
Peter Cushing loved being in this movie, and it's so obvious by every he steals
He was
the
bummed she
scene.
died.
He steals every single scene he's in, and Princess Leia killed it, but still Peter Cushing is right there. That little exchange where they're going back and forth is maybe one of my favorite scenes of the movie. Like,
It is pretty good.
I could smell your stench when I
he's
got
so
here.
cold,
Oh, it's so
and he-
good.
And he feels like he would be kind of in charge of Darth Vader, even though, hierarchy is confusing in this movie.
We gotta talk about that. This is everyone talks crap to Darth Vader to his face. In every other movie since this, we're terrified of Darth Vader. But even like this dude who's walking with him is like talking crap to him. This guy can like strangle you with his pinky. Like, what is going on right now?
I think that's the funny thing with the Force.
Yes.
Like, shouldn't everyone be like pretty terrified of anyone with Force powers based off history?
Right?
Yeah.
And they're all like,
It
your
hasn't
old
been-
religion is dumb.
Yeah, it hasn't been
And he's
that
like,
long since
break
people
your
were
neck.
doing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 20 years ago. You're like, there were thousands of Jedi.
Holy crap. That's the scary thing. Like, how are the Jedi just not these horrible... I guess that's time. Anyways. The other theory is...
It's very funny.
Darth Vader didn't kill the one guy on purpose. He accidentally broke his neck.
Oh.
And then just like trying to go with it. I totally meant to kill the guy. Just throw him off here. Yeah, it's fine. Let's move on. Because he's like questioning him, and then he's just dead. They're like, oh crap.
Well,
Ryan.
Those were my faves.
Okay, those are good. Those are great.
I mean, we all know so many things, but
I got one more I like in it, because at least in the real world, because this movie was so popular, right? There's a billion things that people tried to make right after it, sci-fi, jumping on the sci-fi train. And Argo, the spy mission to extract people from Iran,
Nice, Pat. That's good. That's a good one.
rode that wave of we got Kira setting.
Hi, Kira.
So I either left at the studio or in Ava's car.
Okay.
So just so you know. But I'm going back to the studio tomorrow.
Hey, Kira, can Kira hear us?
no.
Hey, Pat, could you ask Kira something
Yes,
real
sir.
quick?
Yeah.
Why am I holding a R2D2? Why am I holding a trash can? Could you just ask her that?
Why am I holding a trash can, Kira?
Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Oh, I wish you could hear me, Kira. Hi,
There's a
Kira.
new Star Wars. Oh, wait, no, you don't do
No. Yeah.
Wait. What's his name?
Seth, I'm your
I don't remember.
uncle.
Who plays young Anakin Skywalker in this? Is there a young Anakin Skywalker?
Not young Anakin
Lloyd?
Skywalker.
Oh.
No.
Is Jake Lloyd in it?
No, Jake Lloyd is not in this. Yeah, she knows about the actor Jake Lloyd from the
So
Because he
great.
ended up on Jake
prequels. Yeah.
Oh.
Why was that again?
Is he cute?
What's your fun fact about Jake Lloyd?
He has schizophrenia.
He has schizophrenia.
What?
She did a project on actors, famous people with schizophrenia.
Just like, well, it was just about schizophrenia, but then you had to pick a famous person.
Yeah. So Jake Lloyd, who played young Anakin Skywalker in the prequels, has schizophrenia.
That's a great
There's
fun
your
fact.
fun Star Wars fact.
Wow.
I
From
love that.
Kira.
Is it because he was in Star Wars?
Yeah.
Is it good?
Yeah.
She asked if it was because he was in Star Wars.
His mom said no.
Mom said no? Okay.
Because he was.
Oh, people
so
did wonder
good.
this. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a common question.
Traumatized.
Like after Star Wars, but she said that like dad had it and like his grandpa had it.
Oh, okay.
So like
It's-
Oh, yeah. Hereditary.
Not
Okay.
trauma based.
Kind of like
We
Pat.
really should have
there
had
you go.
Kira.
Man, Pat, next time can we get your daughter instead of you? Is that cool for the podcast?
Sounds good to me.
She's very well spoken.
But yeah, anyway, Argo
Yes.
rode the coattails of Star Wars and saved some
People's lives. That's great.
diplomats from Iran under the guise of a cheesy sci-fi movie.
I love it so much. It's so great. This and the Star Wars. I mean, Spaceballs is like next level. Spaceballs, and it reminds me of what's the Tim Allen movie for Star Trek? It's
Galaxy
like
Quest.
Galaxy Quest. It's almost
It's so good too.
it's
But that's Star
really
Trek.
it's part of the lore though. It is part of that world. Like
Yeah.
it's same thing with what was the movie where the guy, it's kind of a sad movie. Is it Fanboys where their friends died of cancer, so they go on
Trying to find George Lucas.
George
Yes,
Lucas
that's Fanboys.
Fanboys, yeah. And it's the guy gets a tattoo as Jar Jar Binks. It's gonna be awesome. This guy's gonna be so cool. And they listened to nothing but Rush the whole time. That was a very like bittersweet movie. That was like, yeah. Anyways,
because I don't know if we'll do another Star Wars thing. I went to college with one of the concept artists for the new Star Wars. So the guy who designed Darth Maul.
Nice.
His name is Ian McKay.
Character.
Yeah. So his daughter went to my college for a little bit, and so he came. And he had a challenge about doing a evil Jar Jar. And I saw a lot of pretty dope Darth, like Sithy Jar Jar Binks. And it was like, that's pretty cool.
That is
pretty
so
evil
cool.
Jar Jar.
That would save Jar Jar's character. That would literally save
it was
the
pretty
character.
nice. Yeah, if it was like a Kaiser Sose situation.
Exactly
you
right.
know, where he's like, Misa, now I'm going to take over the galaxy. You're like, wow.
That was good. That was good. Okay.
There you go. We got to get out of here.
We gotta
What's
land
the
this.
hot take? What is the end game, guys? What is your feeling about Star Wars? After kind of none of this is like really new. None of this podcast listener, you're probably like, oh yeah, I agree. This is this is that. I get it. I do want to mention, like, I got into Thrawn, which is a great book series by Peter Jackson. Like, and the whole thing explained why when Darth Vader got killed, that the Empire just collapsed, and that's like literally a big plot point of a 3-book series. It's like that little plot point. And I love this book.
Like
it's
when
it's one of my
Hitler
favorite
died?
books I read this year. And it's, basically because Darth Vader's Jedi powers were controlling the fleet.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's these, it's crazy that a horrible director can make this.
I mean, there are worse directors, sure. Right?
Kicked off
Worse
this whole world.
Yeah,
And while this is not snobby, this is just.
While there are worse directors, none of them has made the money that George Lucas has.
Yeah.
No.
Who cares if he's a bad director?
I think we see his limitations on this movie for sure.
It's almost great.
And
we're just very grateful people came in after
I
the
want,
fact
I don't
to
want to
clean
give
it
him.
up.
Yeah, I don't want to give him no credit.
No,
American
100%.
Graffiti's pretty good.
It's pretty great.
This movie's, I mean, an all-timer.
Yeah.
And so you can't like discount him entirely as like a filmmaker, right? I think that's the thing. I want to give him some credit,
Pat,
but also acknowledge he's terribly flawed.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go a step further. Empire has always been my favorite Star Wars movie. That
Of course.
has changed in this movie. You ready why?
Yeah, I'm ready. Why?
Empire Strikes Back is a bridge. Mm-hmm. This movie is complete. Mm-hmm. If nothing happens before or after this movie is
Stands
complete.
alone.
It stands alone, and I applaud you, Mariah. I applaud you, Mariah,
For picking the right one.
picking not the snobby choice, but the correct
Or not the one I loved as a child.
not the one you loved as a child, but the correct choice.
Yeah.
And while it hurts me to say that, because I love Empire Strikes Back because they have that moment where the reveal is so good. Mm-hmm. But without this movie, there is nothing. So while this is not the snobby
is
choice,
so strong.
Mariah has chosen the correct Star Wars to be on her top 10 list. If you're going to pick a Star Wars, this has to be the one. And all of you who say Empire, it's a better movie, sure, but it's not the choice you need to make.
That's right.
It's not the choice you need to make.
If you're on a quest
Yeah,
to
none of
become a
that
movie
matters.
snob, you pick the
It is.
one that stands by
And
itself.
so I will say, even though this was so hyped and was changed the way cinema was, and it's the least snobby box office wise, it is the correct Star Wars movies to choose as a movie snob. So I applaud you, Mariah. This
It's
is
the
me.
beginning of a world.
This is me clapping at the end of the scene of the end of the movie of the third one where
Thanks.
they're all clapping.
Yeah.
And somehow the freaking Wookiee doesn't get a medal? What the hell's up with that? No medal?
He smelled too
my
bad from the
gosh.
trash compactor.
Maybe eventually.
So messed up.
I think that's your sort of Thrawn comment, like Thrawn's not even in this one, right? Like
Thrawn's not even canon. He's not even canon until Ahsoka.
He kind of is.
It's
I think Clone Wars made him canon, but like literally everyone in that cantina has a backstory. There's a story someone wrote about the guy who was force choked, one of the commanders or whatever, the one who lived. He's got a story that someone wrote about him, leaving the Empire. And there's stories about people after, they blow up Alderaan, defecting. Every character in this universe has these deep backstories because the universe is so powerful in a way where you can have all these stories. And, the best movies in some ways, like I really like Rogue One. And it's like the story of getting the Death Star plans. The whole impetus
the
for this
worst
movie.
plot point of this movie makes the best Star Wars movie. That's the best part about it. It's crazy. I agree.
It's just such a rich universe. Everyone is chasing this, and they make a lot of bad stuff in this universe, but they also made thousands and thousands of things that are incredibly compelling and good in every media type you can think of.
Yeah,
and I agree with you, but I think Rogue One is actually the best Star Wars movie ever made. To be honest,
it's very good
because
and
you know why?
Without this one,
it can't exist without it. So that's why you can't choose it. But it's actually good acting. It's actually consistent all the way through. It's actually like they make sure everything works right. The writers are not these weirdos who somehow make up this weird universe. No, Rogue One is the best movie from front to back. But unfortunately, it's only because good people got involved on this weirdos. Amazing. And this is what I love about movies. The weirdos make it better. You don't have to be good or perfect, or in fact, it's better that you're not. The fact that George Lucas, who is arguably one of the worst high-grossing directors of all time, that might be his role. He's the worst, highest-grossing.
Well, and if he had a complete storyline and a beginning and an end, and there was a closure to this world in the beginning, we wouldn't have had all these things. Even if it had been a good movie, there wouldn't have been like but we could do this, or this could happen next. And what if, I think his ideas are amazing. I think his execution is not. And
honestly, that was what makes it better.
But the fact that he's so scattered and leaves things open to development is pretty
Star
cool.
Wars is the epitome of teamwork makes the dream work.
Yeah, right? There's your hot take.
And honestly, I love that take because I love the fact, because you guys watch Queen's Gambit, the show Queen's Gambit? A 1 season, perfectly done, buttoned up, great. I was so satisfied at the end, right?
Yeah.
But I thought, you're done.
Yeah.
Star Wars is such a mess that you have this wonderful complexity.
It's a mess with so much opportunity.
Exactly right. And in fact, imperfection. And what is more human?
And it's not one person directing this plane, like this ship. There's
what is
so
more
many
human than that? It's so much randomness. And the better it is the more people involved. So way to go, George Lucas. Your inadequacies make this amazing.
Way to be all over the place.
Way to suck.
Because it worked first.
So filmmakers out there, if you want to make a series, don't be good at things. You've got to suck a little bit. If you were too good, then you can't world build.
Leave a lot of openings for the next guy.
There's something beautiful
hire
about
good
that.
people and give them a little room.
Yeah.
No, don't hire good people. Have your producers hire good people, and then you be pissed that they hired them.
Become the producer,
and
then make all the money off of the people you hire.
And then sell it to Disney, and then you lose your soul, and so does the series. But that's not the point. The point is perfection might kill the story. Yeah. You don't want to be perfect. You want to be open. There you go, Pat.
There you go. Done. We did it.
We did it.
We did it.
I think
I don't know what we did, but we
gotta
stop
stop
now. All right,
Is this
guys.
still in your top 10?
Yes, I am so interested.
I don't know. The more we talk about it, the more I'm like, yeah, I think it is. Because at the beginning of the conversation,
Oh my
I
gosh.
thought maybe not.
Well, when you watch the first 30 minutes of this movie, you're like, no, this movie's stupid.
It
and it's just never going to
belongs.
be.
It belongs
You
on
just
a top.
lean into sound design and visual design.
Yeah,
just lean in,
it
and then
belongs-
it's a warm.
Yeah, it
Okay.
belongs in the top
You know,
10, so it might as well be mine.
Hypothetically, though, if it left, what would replace it? Would you go with another sci-fi? Hypothetically, because it sounds like you're keeping it in there. I mean, you're too indecisive to
I
actually
think I'm
choose
gonna
that
keep.
right
Yeah,
now.
we all know how I go with this.
We should do another top 10.
I don't know.
just to
I need to
stress
look
her
at my
out.
top 20 and see which would bump up.
I know.
But
Is it Gosford
I
Park?
still feel it's not. It's good. I would keep it.
It's. I mean, I thought there's no way she's going to keep this in her top 10.
I didn't.
I literally, if I would put money
when I
on it-
restarted it, I thought that too.
But you also thought a lot of movies were terrible until we had the podcast, and then at the end you're like, I
Sure.
think I like this movie.
Yeah.
So,
My mind changes very,
very
easily.
quickly. I love that about you,
Yeah.
actually. Yeah.
I have no convictions. That's the nice thing about me.
All things to all people. It's very biblical.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Okay, guys, this is How to Be a Movie Snob. We just went through the most underrated, overrated. I don't even know what to call this movie.
All of it.
But
Yeah.
it was a world changing, cinema wise at least, event that reverberates to this day. And the fact that my 6-year-old and the fact that Pat held a trash can for an hour and a half just for
Honestly,
the fact.
happily
Yeah.
snuggled.
Snuggled him.
And my daughter was
I wish I had a reason to do this more.
my daughter was stoked. My daughter, who's 6, was stoked to watch a movie that's from 1977. Is bizarre. So that's crazy. So with that, folks, create, do things, and don't be perfect because you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be
Yeah.
and
And
frankly,
appreciate that this universe is still growing today.
And you can steal from everyone you've ever done. Like, that's the crazy thing about this. This is like original ideas. Arguably, nothing in this movie is an original idea. It's just this guy who took everything he loves and put it all into one movie and decided, I don't need a plot. I'll make the writers and the editors do that. It's fine.
Yeah. By the way, almost 50 years ago,
Yeah.
they're still
Yes.
going to be making
Yes.
new ones.
50
They
years
just
ago.
released Skeleton Crew
Yeah.
yesterday.
I haven't watched it. Have you guys seen it?
No, but I've been listening.
No, people say it's good.
Okay,
people
good.
say it's good.
Good,
Yeah.
good. It's
I
good.
think it'd be good, Dottie appropriate, even like
It's
kiddish.
Jude,
Wow,
it's
that's
Jude
fun.
Law. I mean,
Well,
how can you go
I mean,
wrong?
I could name a couple of Jude Law movies that are pretty rough. By the way, we didn't talk about Mandalorian once, and I'm a little bummed, but I'm there's
Well,
too much
that's
to
another
talk
day.
about. It. We'll do another
It's not
day.
a movie.
We didn't watch Mandalorian.
No. You
Mariah?
have to stop.
We did see
gotta
Boba
cut-
Fett very briefly in that.
Very
in
briefly.
that,
So briefly.
That's the reason to have the Java scene is
Yeah,
because Boba Fett's in
stupid.
there for just a
I
second.
hate it so much.
Yeah.
Mariah, as much as I hate that you picked this movie, I love that you picked this movie. So way to go.
Hey, we
did
covered
it.
and
did it.
check. We covered it.
We covered it. We did in
Yeah.
our own special way.
Mm-hmm.
My name's Seth,
Mariah.
and
R2D2. Oh, Pat.
Trash Pat R2D2 man coming from you live from Seattle. Guys, this has been a fun episode of going through George Lucas's least favorite. I don't even know. This is the crazy thing about it. He's like, this is going to suck. And then it's the only thing that makes some money. We didn't even talk about Alec Guinness hating this movie and making more money on this movie than he's made in every movie combined. We didn't even talk about
Last fun
that.
fact,
We got to talk
he
about
had
that.
2% of the take.
Of freaking
And then
Star
when they
Wars.
finished it, George Lucas is like, here's another 0.25 because
0.25?
you made the movie better. And so,
He made more movie on Star Wars, which he hated and didn't like to admit he was part of, than all of his other movies combined. It's hilarious.
Well, that gives you the money to make the other ones you do like.
But he was done by that point. He didn't care. Shoot.
yeah.
Anyways, guys, this is Star Wars, and we're out.
Goodbye.
Live long and prosper. Suck it, Star Wars fans.
Oh dear.
And also with you.
Yes.